In May 2023, Queen Camilla stepped into Westminster Abbey and did something no royal consort had done in over a century. She left the Queen Mother's crown in the shadows. And with it, one of the most famous diamonds in the world was missing. Queen Camilla did not wear the crown of Queen Elizabeth the Queen Mother, the crown long associated with the Koh-i-Noor. Instead, she was crowned with Queen Mary's crown, an older piece from the royal collection, altered for the day and brought back into use after more than a century. The palace explanation was modern and practical, sustainability and efficiency. Rather than commission a new crown, Buckingham Palace would reuse an existing one. That matters because it is the only reason the palace put on the record. The crown not chosen was never just another royal object. Set into the Queen Mother's crown was the Koh-i-Noor, the Mountain of Light, a diamond tied to conquest, empire, and one of the most persistent curse legends in royal history. Its absence turned a choice of regalia into a clue. Why avoid a crown worn by a previous queen consort, and why leave out a stone so famous that its very removal could be noticed? The answer does not begin with Camilla's private thoughts. There is no evidence she admitted fear of a curse. It begins with the story attached to the diamond itself, an old warning about who could wear it safely and what happened to the men who claimed it as power. That story begins before Britain owned the Koh-i-Noor, with the warning that made the stone dangerous long before it reached a British crown. The warning attached to the Koh-i-Noor is usually told as legend, not as evidence of supernatural fact. Still, legends can matter when powerful people treat an object as if it carries consequences. The warning is often paraphrased like this: "Whoever owns this diamond will own the world, but will also know all its misfortunes. Only God, or a woman, can wear it with impunity." That last line gives the curse its shape. The danger is specific. Male possession brings ruin, while women are described as safe wearers. For a royal jewel, possession was never only personal. In the courts of South and Central Asia, stones like the Koh-i-Noor could signal conquest, legitimacy, and command. When the diamond changed hands, power appeared to move with it. Its route matters because each movement carried political weight. Before the Koh-i-Noor reached Britain, its story passed through India and the Punjab, through Persian and Afghan struggles, through courts where succession could be brutal and symbols were fought over. Read beside that warning, parts of the ownership record become unsettling. Nadir Shah, the Persian ruler associated with carrying the diamond away after invading Delhi, was assassinated in 1747. Shah Shuja Durrani, another male possessor, lost his throne and was later killed. Those fates do not prove the diamond caused anything. Empires were violent without needing a cursed stone. The pattern still gave the legend a reason to survive. Powerful men reached for the Koh-i-Noor as a sign of rule, and disaster followed close behind. The sharper question is not whether the curse was magic, but whether the diamond's history made the warning feel believable enough to shape what later rulers did with it. The strongest argument for the curse is not that the Koh-i-Noor can be shown to kill. It is the paper trail of where the diamond keeps appearing, beside political collapse. Start with the rulers. Nadir Shah's possession of the stone followed the brutal Persian invasion of Delhi. He did not simply take treasure, he carried away visible symbols of Mughal authority. Within years, he was assassinated by his own men. Shah Shuja Durrani's story carries the same shadow. The Afghan ruler who once held the diamond lost his throne, endured captivity and exile, and was later killed after trying to regain power. These are historical fates in unstable empires, not magical proofs. They help explain why the curse gained force. The Koh-i-Noor was no ordinary ornament. A ruler who claimed it had often conquered, displaced someone else, or survived a succession struggle. The diamond did not have to cause violence to become linked with violence. It only had to keep arriving after doors had been forced open by power. That is how the legend hardened. It turned a complicated history of conquest, deposition, assassination, and exile into one unforgettable rule. Men who claimed the stone claimed danger with it. By the middle of the 19th century, that story was about to enter British hands. The next clue is a document. Lahore, 1849. The paper trail begins there. Lahore, 1849. By the time the Koh-i-Noor entered the British record, the Sikh Empire had been defeated, Punjab was under British control, and the ruler named in the transfer was not a conquering king. He was a child. Maharaja Duleep Singh was about 10 years old when the Treaty of Lahore was imposed. In portraits, he can look impossibly composed, richly dressed, formally posed, carrying the title of sovereignty before he was old enough to truly exercise it. Then the document narrows to one clause. Article 3 of the treaty names the diamond directly. The gem called the Kohinoor, which was taken from Shah Suja-ul-Mulk by Maharaja Ranjit Singh, shall be surrendered by the Maharaja of Lahore to the Queen of England. That sentence turns the British story. It is precise, it is legal, and it is written in the cool language of empire. Shall be surrendered. But legal language can record an act without removing the pressure around it. This was not a private gift passed between equals. It came after war, defeat, and the dismantling of a kingdom's power. The Maharaja named in the clause was a boy, inside a settlement shaped by the victors. That is why the treaty matters more than any vague story of a jewel simply arriving in Britain. Before the Kohinoor became a British treasure, it was written out of Punjab sovereignty. For Duleep Singh, the loss belonged to something larger than a diamond: rule, inheritance, and political identity. For Britain, the same object could be reframed as imperial possession, transferred by ink from Lahore to the Queen of England. The document supplies what the legend could not: a paper trail. The Kohinoor's British life begins not in romance or ancient fate, but in Article 3 of the Treaty of Lahore, under the shadow of conquest, with a child ruler standing behind the words. Once Britain had the diamond, a new problem began: how to make a conquered stone look natural inside a royal crown. Britain did not simply display the Kohinoor as it found it. In 1852, only a few years after the Treaty of Lahore, the diamond was recut in London. The old stone, weighing about 186 carats, was reduced to 105.6 carats. More than 40% of its weight disappeared in the attempt to make it brighter to Victorian eyes. The empire had already claimed the diamond by treaty. Now it was reshaping the object itself, turning a conquered symbol into something fit for British royal display. After the recutting came the ceremonial problem: whose head, whose crown, whose risk? The old legend said the diamond was dangerous for men, but safe for a woman or for God. Britain never needed to announce belief in that warning for its public practice to become revealing. Queen Victoria received the Kohinoor as an imperial possession and wore it as a brooch. Later it was set into crowns associated with Queen Alexandra, Queen Mary, and Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother. Across the royal sequence, the stone moved from one queen or queen consort to another. Then comes the gap in the record. No British king is known to have worn the Kohinoor in coronation regalia. That does not prove Victoria's descendants secretly feared a supernatural curse. Royal practice is usually made from precedent, image, caution, inheritance, and politics all at once. The pattern still aligned neatly with the legend's gendered rule. Queens could carry it. Kings stayed out of its wearing record. For more than a century, that arrangement seemed to manage the problem. The Kohinoor could remain in the crown jewels, visible enough for imperial ceremony, but placed on female crowns rather than on the heads of British kings. That pattern makes 2023 harder to explain. The old warning said women could wear the diamond safely. Queen Camilla fit the rule. The Kohinoor was still left out. The trail finally returns to Queen Camilla's crown. Buckingham Palace announced that she would wear Queen Mary's crown for the 2023 coronation, describing the choice as practical. Sustainability and efficiency, reusing an existing crown rather than creating a new one. On its own, that explanation was real. It did not land in an empty room. By 2023, the Kohinoor was no longer only an old royal jewel with an ominous legend. It was one of the most visible symbols of Britain's imperial past, and one of the most contested objects in the crown jewels. India has repeatedly been central to calls for its return, while Pakistan and Afghanistan have also been associated with claims or demands connected to the diamond's history. By then, the old solution had run out of room. For generations, the monarchy could place the Kohinoor on female crowns and avoid the legend's warning about men. Camilla, as queen consort, fit that pattern. In 2023, the risk was no longer framed around supernatural ruin falling on a king. Wearing the diamond at a modern coronation could turn a sacred national ceremony into a global argument about conquest, possession, and colonial memory. There is no need to claim Camilla personally feared a curse. The documented facts are enough. The palace chose a different crown, the official language emphasized practicality, and the public context around the Kohinoor was politically charged. In that sense, the curse had changed form. The old warning spoke of men destroyed by a diamond. The modern warning was quieter and political. Some jewels carry questions about where power came from. The Kohinoor still shines. Its light carries shadows, rulers who lost it, a child sovereign compelled to surrender it, an empire that recut it, and a crown that finally chose not to place it under the coronation lights. The tragic truth behind the cursed diamond is not that magic has been proven. It is that the history attached to the stone kept returning whenever the monarchy tried to display it, and in 2023, the most powerful thing about the Kohinoor was not that it was worn. It was that it was missing.